meanwhile found our panel in the huge program. The title for paper today is The Reading and Interpretation of Cinematographic Screenplays by Screen Actors. I'm almost there. Yeah. Whenever you're ready, we're ready to hear you. Let's see. Voilà. J'ai jamais vu un dessin. Et bye bye. Okay. Hi. I'm ready. Okay. So my current doctoral project addresses the act of reading screenplay both in an empirical and theoretical perspective, and is strongly inspired by Marielle Massey's reading theory and sociologist André Petita's work on the principle of virtuality. In this presentation, I intend to focus on the reading and interpretation of the cinematographic screenplay by screen actors. Reading screenplays, in part or in whole, is a constitutive practice of many screen actors' professional experience. I would like to parse today the tension that occurs between the goal of accuracy, precision, and authenticity that leads the screenplay reading actors' interpretative work, and the notions of sonoristic fiction and screen artifice. A tension building itself through adaptation and transposition, through the embodied mediation of the actor's performance between what is written on the page and what will be on the screen. I would like to argue that this state of things contributes to the fact that we rarely consider actors as readers, as screenplay readers, and therefore screenplays as textual objects, but rather focus our attention on the cinematographic character's larger-than-life aspect and transparency. I would also like to demonstrate that the screen actor's access to the screenplay, as well as its usage and perception, creates ways for actors not only to make sense of the written words and screenplay pages, but also to develop a critical mind towards both their work, environment, and individual professional path. In other words, beyond preparation, auditions, and shooting days, the act of reading screenplays allows screen actors to read their social professional milieu. Before plunging in, a few remarks must be made. Since the summer of 2015, I have been conducting a field study through a series of semi-structured interviews focusing on the act of reading screenplays. I will today share some elements of this ongoing work. So far, I have met nearly 75 people, all professionals working in the Quebec film and television industry, directors, screenwriters, producers, technicians, etc. Out of this number, 35 people are actors, men and women aged from 17 to 65 years old, some of them having only few credits to their resume, other profiling a greater experience in the field. Some of the actors I interviewed work both in French and English, in Quebec, in what we call the ROC, the rest of Canada, in Europe, and or in the US. All of the actors I have met are members of the Quebec Francophone Artists Union, the UDA. Some are also members of the Anglo-Canadian Artists Union, ACTRAs. In this presentation, I will quote some elements from the interviews I have done. No name will be given. I will only refer to the actor's age at the time we met. I will mainly focus on actors' speech element relating to the act of reading cinematographic screenplays, but we must keep in mind that almost no screen actors work exclusively in cinema in Quebec. Indeed, typically, most actors work both in film and television. One of the first topics that came up with actors I met is the access or the lack of access to the full screenplay during the casting process. Most of the actors I questioned, and who have played until now only small roles for the big screen, mentioned receiving only sides and sometimes, but only sometimes, a short synopsis and a brief character description for an audition. A 30-year-old actress told me, and I quote, If you're lucky and you audition for the lead role, you might get the full script. Other than that, it's just the sides and a character's description, end quote. A 24-year-old actor told me, and I quote, "Most of the time, we just get bits of the screenplay for an audition. I'll get the full script only if I get the part," end quote. If actors go about this reality as part of the industry game, some feel strongly about it, like this 36-year-old actor. Often, for an audition, you get only 2 or 3 scenes and that's it. Then they call you and say, "Congratulations, you got the part." That means that they take for granted that you are so poor and have so little options that you will say yes just because they give you the part, almost like they were giving you an effing gift. But that part might be a one, and you might not give a F about it in the end. And when in the past I asked to read the full script before signing, I felt like I was being difficult and annoying, end quote. A 30-year-old actor who now works both in French and English in Canada, in the US, and also in Europe, reflects on his career. When I started in Montreal, I would get only sides for auditions. Now I always get the full script, unless it's a Hollywood super production like a superhero film. Because in that case, if the script leaked onto internet, it would ruin the production communication strategy. But other than that, even for big films, I will get the full script in the US, even for an audition, end quote. A 32-year-old actor, a 32-year-old Montreal-based actress developing an international career made similar observations looking back on her path. At first, I would only receive the casting breakdown and some sides. Now I get offers, so I have a better access to the full script before signing. Also, I arrived as an actress in France with a certain professional recognition, which facilitates my access to more material. End quote. Older actors also concur with this idea that there is a difference regarding screenplay access for actors during the casting process depending on the evolution of their career. To sum up on that topic, when auditioning, full script access is not systematic. Most of the time, there is a rather strong correlation between A, one's star factor, B, the importance of the role to be cast, and C, the audition material one will receive. The UDA collective agreement rules all actors' contracts in Quebec Francophone film industry. The union establishes different role categories: first, second, third, speaking or silent, and extra. Every character of a given project will be assigned a category, depending on its number of written lines in the script. A first role has a minimum of 11 lines, and a second role from 2 to 10 lines. A third role has either 1 line, or if silent, has a precise action to accomplish, like opening a door, delivering a parcel, walking a dog, etc. And an extra has no individual mention nor description in the script. Each category corresponds to a range of earnings. For example, a first role will get a higher minimum fee than a second role. A similar role categories division structures the Anglo-Canadian industry under Actors Collective Agreement. In that perspective, the screenplay stands as a first guideline for actors, not only in terms of acting material, potential screen presence, and media exposure, but also in terms of future remuneration for their work. In Canada, in order to earn our living, one must accept almost anything, told me, an actor with more than 25 years of experience in the field. So the image of an actor with tons of offers and a pile of screenplays to read is not that common in Quebec. That being said, actors do read screenplays in part or in whole. After all, many told me that reading the script is the foundation of the actor's work. The cinematographic professional world, there's only one world. So the cinematographic professional world tends to emphasize on the utilitarian aspect of the screenplay. Since I started my research, one of the most common ideas I have encountered either in books or articles or during the interviews I have conducted, is that the screenplay is not a real text, nor a complete work of art. Many people claim that since so many versions of a given screenplay occur during a project's development, it cannot be considered as anything else than a creative step in a filmmaking process. But that way of thinking implies that any cultural object officially placed under the term work of art is static, immutable, standing on its own, and faithfully to its author's will, sole keeper of its own truth and meaning. I'm not here to combat fiercely that type of aesthetic appreciation regime to which, like many, I most of the time affiliate. For example, when I claim my love and respect for the work of a given author or director. That being said, approach of aesthetic practices and appreciation leads to a more nuanced and subtle comprehension of what is at stake here, as the meaning of a given work of art reveals itself in facts through plural forms, different readings depending on the context, rewritings, even re-readings and re-editions. As we know, one cannot step in the same river twice. So once past the romantic perception of art and creative work, one must acknowledge the fact that the multiplication of version is not exclusive to the scenaristic form. Furthermore, even though the screenplay is not recognized as a canonical literary form, it remains at the minimum a textual form that is socially marked and framed. To put it in concrete terms, I know what a screenplay is when I see one. In a filmmaking context, the screenplay is read and reread and becomes this core object around which many gravitate, from the screenwriter, the director, and the producer or producers, to all the different creative departments, technicians, and workers involved, including the actors. But practically, what kind of work do actors do once they have a screenplay in hand? Is there a difference for an actor between preparing an audition or a shooting day? Some of the actors told me that they would not prepare in the same way for both. That for an audition, they would make a proposition based on what the sides inspired them, and that for the shooting day, they would follow the given indications from the director. That being said, the way to approach the text can vary from one actor to the other. Some aim to just read and learn and stay as fresh and spontaneous as possible, both for the audition and the set. Others spend more time reading and dissecting every element they have access to, trying to understand deeply what they're working with, filling in the blanks, like I have been told, and instill subtext to their characters' word and actions. For example, this actress talked to me about a recent experience where, in a scene, her character gave many orders to another character. On her copy, she wrote down in the margin, his safety. Basically, she was telling him sharply to do this and this and that, but it was to protect him. Nowhere was that intention written in the script, but it was important for her to add that color to the scene. And this 32-year-old actress told me, I try to prepare myself for a shooting day the same way I prepare myself for an audition, because I work effing hard for auditions. I realized that my freedom came from preparation. So for an audition, I can read, and I mean only read, the scene at least 40 times. I ask a friend to help me. I make interpretative choices, but always with some possible alternatives. But I'm also ready for all my choices to be wiped down at the audition. I need to be ready to go somewhere else in my acting if I'm asked to. I just wish I was the actress that I am in audition on every working day. There's also the fact that in an audition, you only act. There's less technical stakes. There's a freedom and a sense of purity in regard of acting that is often present in an audition room, but that is really hard to reach on set. On set, there's a lot of pressure. You need to perform. You need to follow many indications at the same time. You need to hit your mark, etc. When you're on set, you're not only dealing with fiction, but also with craftsmanship. Whereas in an audition, You're just acting and you're closer to fiction, so much so it can feel real. Today, actors often receive their sides or their script by email in a PDF format. But all of the actors I have met so far, either born professionally with or without internet, told me that they prefer to work with a printed copy at some point. Many actors spoke to me about their screenplay rituals, like this 56-year-old actor, who told me, and I quote, "I heard so many well-known actors say how important for them is their first contact with a screenplay. So I try for myself to make sure my first contact is the best possible. I need to be alone, and it needs to be in a quiet environment, sitting on a chair with no music in the background. That first read is very important," end quote. A 62-year-old actress told me, "I always sit at the same place. I read, I learn my lines. At one point I stand up, I try things. The hardest thing is to match the character's vibration with rational and practical words, so the speech touches the character's soul. For it not to be only something learned by heart, but to be able to really hear what the character is saying. You have to do it over and over, again and again," end quote. Most of the actors tend to write notes, keywords, even draw on their copy. It can get even more specific. One would only use a blue ink pen. Another would only use a pencil, and another one would highlight his line systematically with an orange marker. Thus, many actors mention something like a protocol when it comes to their approach of the screenplay in their work. I also asked actors how they thought their trade influences the way they read in general, and how they would compare the way they read a script versus the way they read a novel. Most of the answers I got tend to dissociate the two kinds of reading in this way. And I quote, "A novel fulfills me. It's there for me. And I can't do what I want with it. With a script, it's the opposite. I'm there to give. I taste what I read in a different way. I read scripts either to help director friends who are working on new projects, either for me to work as an actress. With a script, I taste by participating. It demands energy. A novel is more like a bubble. With a novel, I concentrate on the writing, the rhythm, the punctuation, object. A script will be later transposed in moving images. A script is a creative step in the making of a film. I will evaluate and judge the images that pop in my head while I read a script. There's a form of exigency attached to a script that is not necessarily there with a novel," end of quote. Even though this actress states a notable difference between the way she reads a novel and a screenplay, it is important to recognize that both acts of reading lead to a form of mental representation. That being said, this speech element linked with previous ones brings me to conclude for now that in the case of a scenaristic fiction brings me to conclude for now that in the case of a scenaristic fiction resides for actors a complex and engaging dynamic where the textual object profiles a kind of finiteness that allows them to become a vessel and embody a form of signing between the page and the screen. Like this actress told me, and I quote, "In terms of ego and personal projection, there's something bodily about reading a script," end quote. With a novel, actors, just like you and me, are part of an audience. With the screenplay, as a textual object in a professional environment, reading actors, once they're involved either for an audition or for a movie shoot, become something like a medium on their own, standing somewhat between the written script and the future film. And with that medial state comes an important play between opacity and transparency in regards of the screenplay textual matter. The written script, once printed and tangibly enhanced, and also all the social professional stakes exposed earlier, tend not tend not to disappear, but to move out of sight as the reading actors embody the words and as the filmmaking process gets closer to the screen work. That movement between opacity and transparency, I believe, is what structures and underlies the authentic artifice principle, one might say, that rules the scenaristic fiction field and the act of reading screenplays for actors, both in an aesthetic and sociological perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gabrielle, for this very interesting talk about what actors feel when they read first the screenplay and the small parts, they get something. Thank you very much for letting us hear those many quotations, which is very interesting and might animate you to ask some questions together.
Thanks for great. I mean, this is really one of the neglected, I think, aspects of film and film studies. I mean, acting in general, and also working the way you do, that you actually interview actors. You're also building a sort of, I mean, I guess I'm all stuck in the past as always, but you're building an archive for the future with this also, which I think is very important. And that made me wonder whether there is something akin to it historically. I mean, and if you're interested in historical material. And the reason I came to think of that is because I recently stumbled over a phenomenon that I wasn't even aware of, that was live television films in the 50s. Mm-hmm. So before video, and you could actually record video, film was sort of intermediate between film and theater, but very complex. Yeah. You're probably familiar.
It was huge in Quebec. Huge.
It was huge. Oh, because the only one I know about is John Frankenheimer and the American before they became filmmakers, Sidney Lumet and Frankenheimer. So the question is really if you've been looking at that material, if you're interested in that, and also if there are any records of actors discussing these aspects of acting in the past.
Well, I didn't dig in the past that far, I would say, so far. Weird structure there. But I guess that the speech element I have encountered so far outside of the interviews I have done, and some going back or some more recent, tend to romanticize that sector because I think I see more and more young actors talking openly about the casting process, but it's not a sexy conversation to, when you're promoting a film, to say, oh yes, I was among 45 girls and I'm very happy I got the part. And also often the director and the producer will say, yes, we thought of her or him and we just called him, and the image of the actor stuck with a pile of screenplays and deciding and which one talks to me, and oh yes, I saw myself in that movie, you auditioned for it. So it's not, it's kind of angle mort. You know, in a car you cannot see that blind spot. Oh. Yeah, we prefer to keep that often, that discussion in that blind spot for many people. And yes, it's not that common. So, but I don't know. I recently been put in touch with very old scripts, radio scripts from the 40s in Quebec, and I'm curious now to try and find people talking about how it was to work with those scripts back in the days. But they're probably not with us today. So. But yes, I'm digging for that, but I didn't find something true. That being said, I must keep in mind and keep an eye on when people still say, yes, I read the script and I saw myself in it, and because that's a speech element on its own, and it's valuable as well because there's aesthetic appreciation at stake there, but there's also so many social, professional aspects hidden behind that short affirmation. Yes.
How there other questions, comments?
J'avais une question, mais si je peux la poser en français, ça ne dérange pas. Les acteurs que tu as rencontrés, est-ce qu'il y avait une conception différente du texte de théâtre? Ou est-ce qu'ils ont
Oui.
une relation?
Ben, c'est sûr que quand I will answer in French. I can answer in English. I can answer in English. I will answer in English.
No, I'll try.
No, she asked if actors had the same perception of theater.
He did French in school.
Yeah.
Voilà. So we'll talk super fast and only in French. So when I meet these people, they're busy people, most of them. So I have my questions ready for my topic. That being said, I asked them if they had, one of the questions I ask people I meet is if they, in their studies, most of them come from theater studies. They learn to act in theater school in Montreal, most of them. So I asked them if the fact that they learn to read and work with plays help them to approach the screenplays as a textual object. And I remember this girl told me she was 31, I think, at the time, and she remembered the first time she worked in television. For her, she was used to the play and theater. You have like the lines go all the way. You learn your lines. It fills the page, and in cinema you have like technical stuff, and then the sides are just the lines are just in the middle and shorter. And for her, she was like, "Where are my words? Where is there? So it's so empty." Like, and it was for her to kind of follow how to. But then she said, like after a week, it was fine. But it was a vivid image for her, a vivid memory. But also is the difference, the main difference regarding textual objects between theater, cinema, and television is that in theater you spend a lot of time talking about the text. In cinema, you still kind of talk, but it goes fast. But in TV, what was really impressive for me is to be confronted with the fact that they're alone. Like it goes so fast, like they shoot faster and faster and faster. So if you're not the lead, but just a second or a third role, you just learn your lines and hope for the best, and you must get it on the first take. So I think it was the main difference is how much time you have to talk with the director about the text. Ça répond un peu à ta question?
Merci.
Je profite puisque c'est en français. C'est trop compliqué, je voulais la poser, mais bon là, je rebondis justement sur la réflexion qui a été faite. Je trouvais ça extrêmement intéressant. C'est une chose effectivement, c'est qu'on n'a pas idée de ce qui se passe. C'est extrêmement intéressant. Et moi, la question que je me pose par rapport à ça, pour revenir sur le théâtre, film, télévision, j'imagine que déjà peut-être l'acteur studio peut-être a joué un rôle, c'est-à-dire dans la manière d'écrire les scripts et de faire en sorte que le contexte et la personnalité et les contraintes techniques sont peut-être plus importantes que le texte. Et par rapport à ça, alors je suis incapable de trouver la référence parce que j'ai entendu très récemment, dans une conférence, je ne sais pas où c'était, j'ai entendu dire, alors je vais faire une classification rapide qui est peut-être complètement fausse. Au théâtre, donc c'est le texte. Au cinéma, bon, on va dire, c'est le texte, mais moins, c'est plus le contexte, la personnalité, etc. Et j'ai entendu dire, là, mais alors je n'aurais plus trouvé la référence, je vais la retrouver, que dans les séries aujourd'hui, dans les séries, en fait, il y a une place extrêmement importante, de plus en plus importante, liée à tout ce qui est proxémie, signes non-verbaux, etc. C'est-à-dire qu'on a une présence, on a le texte qui commence à disparaître plus qu'avant. Voilà. Est-ce que c'est vrai? Comment on peut expliquer ça? Enfin, voilà.
Ce que j'ai...
In English, it's good.
Oui, je peux.
I
understand the English, but it's very difficult to speak English.
No, but do it fresh if you want.
D'accord. Mais and then I'll translate in a short version, just to have my mind flow, normal way. Ce que j'ai compris, puis même en écho avec ce que vous dites à l'instant et ce que des acteurs que j'ai pu rencontrer m'ont dit, c'est il y a quelque chose il y a cette tendance particulièrement, mais même au cinéma en fait, en cours de tournage et en télévision, c'est qu'on se rend compte que less is more. Et finalement, il y a des trucs où on se dit, mais il n'y a peut-être pas besoin de rien dire à ce moment-là, juste qu'ils prennent une gorgée d'eau toute seule dans sa chambre. Il n'y a pas besoin de dire je suis triste. On comprend que ça ne va pas bien à ce moment-là, juste en le voyant. Il y a une écriture de l'image qui arrive à ce moment-là. Cela dit, ça ne veut pas dire que parce qu'on n'entend plus de répliques, qu'il n'y a pas une forme textuelle en flottement devant la production audiovisuelle. C'est-à-dire qu'on peut avoir l'impression que le texte disparaît, mais il y aura toujours cette forme textuelle qui accompagne le processus de création audiovisuelle.
Mais ça se traduit par un comportement. Oui. Après, il me semble, ça c'est un avis, peut-être que ça provoque en fait des gens qui vont surjouer. Typiquement, je vois des images de cinéma américain où lorsqu'on dit, sans dire « Oh my God », on voit… Ouais. Ça, on ne le dit pas, mais en fait, dans le visage, ça devient caricatural. Et ça devient, j'allais dire, c'est un peu méchant, mais proche du théâtre. Oui. À un moment donné, on va être obligé de forcer l'expression, on va dire, le jeu de l'acteur.
Ouais, mais ça, je crois que c'est du cas par cas. Je pense pas que c'est… Après, il y a un truc qui peut être un peu bizarre, puis ça, déjà, moi, je le vois en télévision, plus qu'en cinéma, je trouve, mais même en cinéma, parce qu'il n'y a pas beaucoup de fonds, c'est que sur la division des catégories de rôle, eh ben, il y a des gens qui veillent au grain sur les plateaux parce qu'on ne veut surtout pas que la personne qui avait le troisième rôle avec une réplique dise « bonjour » et merci. Parce que là, si elle dit merci, c'est une deuxième ligne, puis là, son cachet augmente et ça devient hyper compliqué, mais ça fait que plein de fois, peut-être que là, je vais changer votre vie, mais vous regardez des émissions, des séries, et puis il y a quelqu'un qui tend quelque chose à une autre personne qui fait juste… Puis elle s'en va parce qu'il ne faut pas qu'elle parle parce que sinon elle coûte cher. Et là, ça dépasse le rapport à la création audiovisuelle, scénaristique. C'est des enjeux économiques qui s'immiscent dans le truc. Mais ça, à la base, c'est un peu comme si quelqu'un décidait, à partir de Hamlet, de Shakespeare, de produire une série télé et qui coupait les répliques de tout le monde. Ben, le texte de Hamlet, en tant que tel, ben, il existe en tant que tel aussi toujours, c'est-à-dire que peu importe le charcutage qu'on lui fait subir en cours de processus pour faire une série télé, là, je dis n'importe quoi, mais si on retourne à la base, il y avait quand même du texte à partir duquel on a travaillé, évolué. Il y a toujours un fil qui peut remonter au texte. Puis je ne suis pas là pour dire que du coup, le texte a une préséance, une paternité, mais à chaque fois qu'on dit ah, mais le texte disparaît. Non, le texte, on retravaille, on réécrit, on remodèle, mais ça part d'ailleurs. Il y a une intertextualité qui embarque dans tout ça, finalement, je crois. Do I need to translate?
No, you can tell me afterwards.
We'll have a coffee
break. Maybe one question for you, Gabrielle, or two. What I was very interested in is in the image of the actor as a reader, because we never think about the actor, if it's for cinema or even for the TV, as somebody who is interested in reading and who would like to talk more. And what you are telling us now is that in the TV shows, the actors are not allowed to talk a lot because it costs so much, you know. It's really horrible thinking about arts like this. But what I heard too and what I read too is that the actors have special treatments of the text and even special manners to underline and to mark their interest in the words and the literature in general, maybe. And the movie makers are not interested in them as readers. They are only actors and interpreters of the text in a very special frame. So the question is there a difference in what you heard and what people told you and what you read yourself between actors, movie actors and TV actors? Or do they act the same, or are they treated a little bit the same, or are there very different media, so different treatments too?
like I said earlier, in Quebec particularly, it's really rare that you're just a cinema actor. You pay your bills with TV, and sometimes you get this candy of a film. And it's not my way of seeing things. It's literally something that many people told me that, that's my job. That's what I can do. So yes, I will go and play on that sitcom and stuff. That being said, there are different production cultures in each field. And there's also this thing that's very interesting is that back in the days, let's say there was cinema and television, but today, let's think of if you think of Orange is the New Black, let's say, it's a TV series, but it's shot just like a super long feature film. The condition of productions are almost the same because they don't shoot in studio, or some scenes in studio, but they will shoot. Once you start shooting on location, you shoot just like a feature film, either cinema or the production shooting conditions are very similar. That being said, often in a cinematographic context, filmmaking context, you have this sense of, since it's more tightly knit, if I can say, like, so you all take care together of that project. Like, it's a very cherished object. It's kind of, we're all working around the director, for the director, but for the good of that film that's being made. And sometimes there you have a bit more time to talk about the script, the text, how you read it as an actor, and what the director wants to explore with that. And then there's a discussion if most of the time you're a first role. Because if you're a second or third role, you're there only 1 or 2 days out of 35. You're there to do a job. You were hired because you fit the profile, and you're known to be good. And yes, we have a bit more time than in TV, but we still have no budget, so you need to be good, 2 or 3 takes max. Like, we cannot shoot whole day for you to say merci. So the time and money really influence the way, the space, or the amount of time one can have on set to talk about what they read and how they felt about the scene. But for people, because there are some people in Quebec, and I'm sure it's like that all over the world, but in Quebec, there are some people who make career out of just playing third role all their life. They do 2 or 3 shootings a month, and they have kind of a very humble life. But so you never talk with people about what you read. So it's very variable. Just ça répond peut-être.
Tout à fait. Very interesting. Last question?
Oh, if it's last option.
No, it's okay. No, nobody else
Okay.
raised their hand.
So first, just a very short sort of anecdotal association with and again the historical aspect, like the live television. John Frankenheimer, I just read recently, was hailing. I forget his name. The actor. Okay, I skipped the anecdote because I forgot. Mickey Rooney. Okay, so Mickey Rooney was his favorite actor. He worked with him. And he hailed him. Oh, he was the best actor I've ever worked with. And why? What was this? Because when he came to set, he was already completely. He had the role finished. He had nailed it. And Frankenheimer was he produced like 150 films in 6 years. So that's roughly live films, 2 films a month, if I count correctly. So no talk about script there, I guess. So it's interesting to look at the even financial conditions and the industrial conditions of TV now. But there was just anecdote. The question was to sort of throw back the Brechian thought. So is your material entirely interview based, or are you also? It might be interesting to look at, speaking of this romanticizing aspect, I mean, how cinema has reflected upon the audition, this very specific.
Yeah. Well, there's recently a good scene La La Land,
Yes.
super
seen
well
it.
done. That the movie itself, it's something else, but the scene, the audition scene in that film is brilliant. We could do a study about, but in my PhD project, I have no corpus. Really, it's I'm there to develop a way to approach the text, the screenplay as a textual object, but I will refer to all the interviews I do, so that can be my corpus, if I can say. That's a good. We could do a paper. There you
For
go.
an article, because you have this amazing approach, and it would be so interesting to look at the relation between the imaginaries of auditioning in film and your very real actual material. I was thinking of David Lynch and Lost Highway, which is a very sort of meta romanticizing Hollywood-esque scene there with the.
And recently, there's this documentary about the John Bennett girl who was killed years ago, like the little beauty pageant girl, Blondie. It's on Netflix now. Casting John Bennett, and it's a full documentary done through a series of auditions. It's really something. Yeah. So yes, Jean prends note.
What's the name of that movie?
Casting John Bennett. I'm sure if you type casting in Netflix, it's the only one. But the other casting by, that's a great documentary that was done recently about casting directors. That's it.
Okay. So thank you both thanks both to you for changing our perspectives about the topic of our panel. It was really very interesting. I think everybody shares this opinion. We'll never see a hip hop movie the same as we did. We'll never see a screen or a movie as before hearing Gabrielle and Jonathan. So you have more time for the coffee break. So take a chance of it. Maybe you can leave. It's very beautiful outside, and then you come back for the next panel.
Merci.
And I didn't have to use my 1 minute.
Oh.
Screenplay.